Here we go. I am so excited for today's conversation. Not only are we talking about grit in our series, addressing like these deeper meanings of what it really is, especially for business owners, but also today we're diving into sales and not just sales, but what it's like to leave corporate and then start your own business. And there's like this whole other layer of grit that we are discovering. So, with me today, I have Jane Garee, who is the co founder of Wander the Seven. I just love there's so many layers of today with not only that, but like being a digital nomad and being able to travel while you have your business and the sexiness of that, but also the realities of that too. Jane, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, and then let's start diving into this juicy story.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking, how much time do we have? There's a lot we could talk about here, but we'll keep it concise for everybody. So I am Jane Garee, known as the sales strategist for the non-salesperson. And thank you so much for having me here today. We're going to talk about two of the most favorite topics in my world, which is sales and all things sales and selling, and travel and location independence, digital nomading. So I'm super excited to have this conversation today. So the short answer of why are you here and what is this really going to bring to your life is that my original company, Show Stopping Sales, is now in its 15th year. And what we do over there is we really just stop the stress so you can get to yes. So it's really teaching people sales strategies, sales enrollment conversations, things that definitely pertain to conversion. So all the hard work that you're doing actually turns into clients who are willing to pay you for the work that you do. So stop the stress and get to yes. Let's blow through the sales miss and actually realize that selling is serving and take it from there. And then
Mhm.
Wander the Seven is a company that is fairly new. It's just, it was 1 year. We celebrated 1 year in August. And what we do, and I have a business partner now. And so we work with travel obsessed entrepreneurs or online business owners who are really wanting to get the freedom of time, get the white space on their calendar, get the financial freedom that they originally envisioned having when they decided to become a business owner. And it may or may not be working out completely like they saw it in their head. So as we like to say over there in Wander the Seven, you can travel as much as you want without missing a business beat. And really, we teach you how to leverage your business for more travel opportunities and your travel for more business opportunities. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm already curious. I'm like, I need an example here because I'm like, ooh, I could travel more and leverage my business to so I'm like, I could totally consult a boutique hotel. I'm like, can I
Yeah.
get free free travel? That'd be
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now,
Yeah.
I love we were just talking about is you came from corporate and you did sales. And coming from that, like, right? Like, you're like, "I got this." Like, I've been doing sales for a while, teaching sales and having my own business doing that is gonna be a breeze. And then reality hits that owning a business is so much different than this, like, facade that people put on majority of the
Yeah.
time. Tell us
Yeah.
more about that story.
Yeah, it's so true. I had the great good fortune to work for two different billion-dollar companies in a sales role, which turned into a sales manager role, which turned into a sales manager and training role, which then eventually I became a regional manager and I had full P&L responsibility of multiple offices. And of course, a huge part of that was hiring the sales team, managing the sales team, training the sales team, inspiring the sales team. I loved it. We worked in a bullpen environment. It was like a more friendly kind of environment than say a boiler room, but it was a
Mhm.
lot of energy and there was a lot of stress. There was a lot of stress to perform. So I did really, really well in that environment, and my teams did really well, and the individuals on my team were getting promoted. So there was everything to me really lent itself to believing, yeah, check, 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 including the bosses and the managers and the more money and the more promotion. And they used to call me the rainmaker. And it was delightful. It was delightful. So when I became self-employed, which was 2010, what I knew for sure is that a business only survives if it's generating revenue. And generating revenue is really just a fancy term for you're selling stuff. Stuff is getting sold. And I thought, okay, I can do this. If there's anybody more perfectly positioned to understand the reality that, especially in the beginning, you're a full-time salesperson more than anything else for your business. And number two, I've got the street cred and the proof that I can sell. This isn't I hope I can sell. I know I can sell. I know I can bring in clients, generate business. This should be okay. I should be fine with this. I was not fine. And it was maybe 6 months into it. And I thought, I may have to go get a job because this is not working out. And the reason why it wasn't working out is I wasn't getting any clients, which means I wasn't able to sell anything. I wasn't able to close. I wasn't able to convert. And it frankly absolutely blew my mind. I mean, if somebody would have said to me, you're going to struggle with tech, I would have said, yeah, well, no kidding. I'm not a tech person. Or you're going to need some augmentation for like deep, hardcore marketing strategies. Yes, it intersects with selling, but it's not selling. It's very different. So there were so many things that I knew I just was not prepared to do because I didn't have the interest, or frankly, I didn't have the skill. But selling was my jam. That was the thing that I could do. And I was failing miserably at it. So the rubber really hit the road where I took a look at my bank accounts, which were dwindling rapidly, and said, you need to make some decisions here. If you're going to do this, you need to figure out what is the workaround, or you need to go get a job. And so fortunately, I was able to hire myself for pennies on the dollar. And I did hire myself as a sales strategist, as a sales trainer, and knew that I had the ability to get people to see sales in a little bit of a different way, including a mindset shift so that I could become inspired again about sales, because it was really starting to feel like a drag. And so that happily worked out very, very well, because what I was able to do is come in truly objectively, take a look at everything and understand where the deficiencies were and the gaps that I was creating or I was widening. And so the bottom line that I really discovered, and I'm sure everybody, whether you've had a official corporate training, sales background or not, is when you are selling you and you are selling your services, that is an entirely different thing than when you are selling the services for somebody else. So when you're selling for somebody else, it doesn't feel like personal rejection. It just feels like, well, they don't want the thing, but it's not me. When it's your own business, it starts to feel like it's you, and you start to create a whole lot of doubt around the skill that you have and the aptitude that you have. Where when you're selling for somebody else, the only doubt that you have is, let me make sure that my product is actually standing up against the other competitor. So it's very, very different. So fortunately, I was able to take myself through my own paces of revised sales strategies, revised sales training, and then that worked out really well. And this is 2010. So because I'm about to throw a number at everybody, which probably won't mean too much in 2024, but in 2010, in the first 12 months, I did hit that 6-figure mark, which was my goal. And so that was a big deal. I was really happy to see that. And then I knew I was going to be fine.
I love that you talked about being able to look at your own business objectively. Like, that is so key. And I agree. I've had to do that myself, to like sit down and have those hard conversations with
Yeah.
ourselves to say,
Yeah.
Izzy, right now, your business is not in good standing based if I was to critique someone else's business. These are
Right.
the key things that I would, and that is such an amazing skill set that we must have as business owners, with grit to take things to the next level, to be able to self-coach, to self regulate to a certain level, to be like, hey,
Yeah.
let's check in and see what's reality and what's not. So you've got your
It's
business.
an act of grit to just move your ego that far out of the way, because that was really hard. So like I said, well, I'm not great at tech. Okay. I'm not great at it, but I can't sell. I can't generate what? So that's a lot, that's a lot. And I don't know if enough people really realize that there's such a fine line between, I'm going to move my ego out of the way so I can look at this objectively and then get the help and support that I need, versus I will just try harder because clearly I rock at this. You may have, and you may need some fine tuning.
And it's such a beautiful thing, and it's empowering too. It really is empowering when you do that because you can then say, "Now I know what I need, and I'm gonna go look for that intentionally." Because what I see is when you're like, "I'm just in chaos. I don't have the time to even sit down with myself." You're gonna get told to a lot, and you're gonna buy a lot of things typically really well. Versus if you're like, I know I need this, and I know I need these core things, and I know how I am, so now I'm gonna go look for that. How empowering is that, right?
It is, and there's it's. I think for most people, and I don't like speaking for other people, so I will speak for myself. I'm fairly aware of what I do well, and I'm fairly aware of what I don't do well. The gray area is I'm not always aware that even though I do something well, there's always a next level of mastery. So even in the doing well, I've got deficiencies, I've got weak spots, I've got things that need to be revised or redone or whatever you want to say about it. And that takes some that in and of itself is a skill, really being able to become that self-aware where you can put your hand up and say, this isn't working. And it's not that I'm doubting myself, but something is off with the system or the process or the messaging or the methodology.
Yes. All right. So let's fast forward. You're developing these new skills and really applying the skills you already had just in a different way as well. Getting square with your ego. And then where does the traveling come in? Like, how did you infuse that into the business?
Yeah, that's kind of a wild story. So I grew up in when I'm thinking about in the 70s and the 80s. I grew up in the 80s, but in the 70s, my parents would load us up into the station wagon with the wood side paneling, if anybody remembers that. And we would head off for these road trips. And my dad was self-employed, so we had the fortune of being able to we could take time, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that kind of thing. But my sisters and I would be in the station wagon, and mom would constantly remind us that when we got back from vacation, we had to have our book reports in, or we had to have our reading list ready to go. So when you're a kid, your job is school. And so
Yeah.
my mother would toss we'd always hear in the back seat, girls, don't forget your book report. Girls, how's your reading list going? Girls, So to me, the concept of working while traveling, it was just what we did. We were school because of our age, but we were working while we were traveling. So I just really never realized that was a kind of a different thought process than not. So fast forward then to my junior year of college, and I went abroad. I went to go study in Paris, and part of that was the trip down to the French Riviera. So as I like to say, my real majors are in tanning and pastries. So it was when I was down on the French Riviera while I was studying in Paris when I was in my junior year of college. And I was just sitting on this rock in Nice. If you've ever been to Nice, it's absolutely stunning. And the Mediterranean splashing up on my feet. And I'm eating these gorgeous succulent strawberries that I had gotten from the fresh local market with my little straw bag, which is what they carry over there. And I had on my headphones with a Walkman, I'm dating myself. And I was listening to this really groovy music. And I had this absolute moment where I thought, I'm in school. I'm in school with the salt air and the Mediterranean splashing up on my toes and the music and the strawberries. And I'm going to be able to sit here for a few hours, and then I'm going to go write my report or whatever it was I needed to do. And while I thought I'm in school, I also had the thought that, yeah, my classmates are sitting in wooden desks in a room that probably doesn't have any windows. And but all of us are going to school, but I'm having this kind of experience, and they're having a more traditional one. And so it was really at that moment where I thought, I want to be able to live like this. School is my work right now, but when I work, I want to be able to live like this. I want to be able to have this kind of freedom. And then I became very determined, just like with the sales, which to me was, I'm here to make sure that anybody who wants to have a business can actually afford to have one, which you can't do unless you know how to sell. So it was the same thing with the integration of living a lifestyle that really allowed for a lot of travel. Everybody should be able to live like that if that's in fact what you want to do. And so It was a couple years ago where I really started to think, you know what, I could turn this into a business, because I've had people ask me over decades, because I've always been a traveler, everything from how are you pulling this off? Why are you on vacation all the time? It's not a vacation, it's a lifestyle, although I do take vacation. What gear do you use when you travel? So I had become this sort of the source for a lot of people about where to go, what to do, how to travel, what to take, and how to maintain your business while you're doing that. And so I thought, you know what? I think it's time. And the other thing that I just knew from being able to read the tea leaves is we as a society are moving more and more towards digital nomadness, if nomadness is a word. We are more we are more as a society realizing, excuse me, we have the freedom to go live and work from anywhere, and it's become very, very appealing to people. So that's who I love working with now.
I'm like, there's so many layers here that I want to unpack because I don't know if you're so aware of it because you're in it and you do it. And I think for me, I see so many people that are in the complete opposite mindset that allows me to see this. But one, to see how beautiful gift that was that your parents gave you of
Yeah.
being able to like see that that is possible and that it even carried through to college so that you could keep unraveling this awareness. And that so many people, like you just mentioned, like the other students are sitting in class and you're having this experience because so many people don't know how to do that. That we end up as business owners chaining ourselves to our desk a lot of times when one, we don't have to, that there is a different way of working, right? Like I could screen my patio in and get to sit outside with the leaves
Yeah.
fall.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
but are we making that a priority? And a lot of times we don't make it a priority because we haven't experienced that to say, "Oh, wouldn't this be nice?"
Wouldn't this be nice? And we talk about that all the time in Wonder the Seven, which what we say is there's no adventure too big or small. It's what lights you up. So we absolutely have clients who are going, Italy, I want to live there for 3 months. How do I make that happen? Okay, we can help you with that. And we also have other women who say, you know what? I've got grandkids that are just 2 states over. I just want to know that I can spend the entire summer there and not worry about it. And then we have other people who really, they're not even that interested in the travel, but they want to up the mastery of their conversion and their sales so they can go sit out on their porch and work for 3 hours that day instead of 10, and then go to the local coffee shop. So the idea of a life of adventure, which I have always been just naturally very, very passionate about, it you get to define it. It doesn't mean it's going to require a passport and train and plane tickets and months away from your home. You get to define what your adventure is. And the beautiful thing about that is, what I would always say is, don't leave any stone unturned. Go live the life that you were destined to live. But you and only you have to figure out what that means.
Yes. Well, and it's beautiful. Like, and I can't stop saying that because yes, like one, we have to sell more so that we can factor in, right? And most of the time, it's probably a business cost in order to work somewhere else.
Very
So,
frequently.
right, like to be able to do more, like, and so often we are living in this just like, I just need to do this and I just need to make this, and to like allow yourself to embrace adventure, which for me is like abundance. Like there's
Yes.
so much more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so often as business owners, we start our business for the freedom, but again, we end up chaining ourselves to the desk.
You end up chaining yourself to the desk. Yes. And the other thing that anybody who has traveled knows, that travel really, it enables you to get into a whole different, it's almost like a whole different persona. But I always say the best version of myself is when I'm traveling. I don't get upset about things as easily. I just release all control. I just get more brave about everything. But traveling really can foster significant growth in your business. And when you leverage travel for more business, you're also able to leverage your business for more travel. So let me give you an example. Last year, I spent 3 months in predominantly the former Eastern Bloc European countries: Croatia, Bulgaria, Romania. And I went with one of my friends. And after 5 weeks in Croatia, we went and it was a private catamaran. So it was just they had 4 cabins, and then the captain, and then the captain's, I can't think of the sailing term right now, but anyway, the captain and the helper.
Uh-huh.
I'm really sorry for people who are like official, like, oh, what? There's a proper name for that, and I know it, but I can't think of it right now. Anyway, it was magnificent to date. Out of all the things I've ever done in any place I've ever traveled, that ranks right up there and probably one of the top 3 things I've ever done. The color of the water throughout the Croatian islands and around Croatia is absolutely incredible. So anybody who has been thinking about it, you must go. And then it was just such an incredible experience, because since we were just a small catamaran, we were able to go to these islands that the bigger ships weren't able to dock there. And so we were having lunch and conversation with restaurant owners who had been there for generations, and it was like we were the only one on the islands other than the locals, and it was absolutely magnificent. But here's the point that I wanted to make. I got up early one morning, which for me is like 9, and I walked out onto the part of the area that they served breakfast for us, and I sat there with my journal. And I'm a huge journaler. I journal faithfully every single morning. And I was journaling, and then it kind of started into, this would be some great content. And I started to make this list of content that I would like to create. And I had this kind of interesting moment, because I thought, put your pen and paper away. You are on vacation. Stop working. But then I realized that is what the joy of that kind of freedom actually brings. There was nothing else that I would have rather been doing in that moment than feeling that catamaran kind of rock gently back and forth on the waves, the pen and paper that I was, tactile, I could feel it, the coffee, the sea air, the Mediterranean, the birds, all of it. And technically I was working. Now that was absolutely by choice, and it only lasted, maybe 45 minutes, because I was writing and then we were off to snorkeling. But it was so incredible to think, I'm here traveling, but I'm going to be able to leverage my experiences and my writing and content creation for my business. And then, of course, as a result, as I was posting things, I started getting inquiries from people. What are you doing and how do I do it? We need to talk. So there you go. That's how you can really leverage travel for more business opportunities, and leverage your business for more travel opportunities.
I agree. And I think for any business owner, coach, consultant, like, I think it displays more than just, "Ooh, look at me, I'm traveling." It shows that, like, I can fully live life and be a business owner. It shows that you have some type of balance and intentionality, and, like, there's just so much more that oozes from that and radiates from it than just a great looking photo, which, I mean, that always helps, but
Yeah.
but
Well,
just to get to that space, to get into that mindset.
and can we talk about grit and the reality of living that kind of lifestyle for a minute?
Yes,
Because that
please.
kind of lifestyle can look really glossy and really sexy, and you're thinking, how do I get myself more than that? And it is, to a large extent, really glossy and really sexy and all the things that you think it might be. And what most people don't talk about, but I love talking about, is the grit that is required to maintain that kind of glam that is now
Mm.
seen out on social media. So that catamaran would be a perfect example. I have been on boats before, but not really overnight in the middle of a sea, fill in the blank. And so the captain called us up, and he was giving us the housekeeping rules, basically. And he said these magical words to me, and I'm going to apologize for a little TMI, and hopefully people won't get too grossed out. But he said, you can't flush anything down the toilet, including toilet paper. And I'm
Oh.
processing this, and I'm thinking, I'm sorry, did I just hear that correctly? So he says it again, and I turned to my friend, who is a very seasoned sailor, and I said, is he saying what I think he's saying? We can't flush what? And she said, oh yeah, that's just typical on these kind of boats. And I'm going, like, I really thought I was gonna hurl or jump over into the sea and just be done with it, because I can be a little princessy sometimes. It totally grossed me out. And that would be a great example of, here I am having my coffee, and then behind the scenes, I'm doing everything I can to not have to go to the bathroom until we reach a port, So it's
Yeah.
just weird.
Well, and I'm curious too, like, because I know me when I'm juggling dropping the kids off and I have an electric car. So then I have to like figure out how to charge in between having to go pick them all back up again and work and find internet and
Yeah.
all these things. I imagine there's a layer of that too. Like when you're traveling, like where's internet? Where's going to be a quiet place? How am I delivering my content? And then juggling, ooh, I've got 45 minutes to like go sightsee real quick.
Right. This is a fundamental misconception of having a truly integrated business lifestyle. People absolutely romanticize what it would be like to stay someplace long term, live someplace else, because their point of reference is, well, I've been on vacation there. It was great. Well, of course it's great. You're on vacation. So it's like I used to live in Florida, and I can't tell. I love Florida. I still love Florida. The amount of people who would come down to visit me and go, "How I would live, I could move here in a second. It'd be great." Because what they don't realize in the vacation time that they've had are the bugs and the heat and the crazy drivers, and that, go fill in all the things. Florida is a weird state to live in. I love it, but it's weird. And it's the same thing when people think about picking up and temporarily going and settling someplace where they're going to have a laptop lifestyle. And that's one of the key myths that my business partner and I like to dispel immediately. Laptop lifestyle makes it sound like you pick up your laptop and you can figure everything out. This is fairly doable if you're on vacation 2, maybe max 3 weeks. But after that, the longer time you spend in any one place, the likelihood and the probability is that real life is going to start setting in. So what do you do when they shut down your bank account for some random reason? And then as a US citizen, you just call 1-800 number, but you can't do that because you're in Romania. What do you do when you can't access any online at all? What do you do when you have a meltdown? This happened to me in London when I was living there, because you can't get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which I maybe eat 3 times a year when I'm home, it symbolized so much of the homesickness and I wanted to hear an American accent. If you go to, oh, we don't want to do this, but we could do it later. I'm like, stop it, just pronounce your name. I just wanted to hear an American accent. It was so
It's so
funny. Although
real.
I have to say that it was a great time over there. But you crave everything that is familiar. So the thing that I really want everybody to pay attention to, and we've got some resources that will help you with this, is number one, you have to determine what is the life that you want to live.
Mhm.
And if you want more travel, then you need to define, what does travel mean? Some people realize they just want more vacation. Other
Yeah.
people realize they want to take longer vacations, and other people realize, no, I could go all in and settle into someplace for a month and much longer. But those are 3 entirely different ways of living, which means you have to think about, how is it going to affect your business and how is it going to affect you. It's a really big deal. Laptop lifestyle it's a myth. The best you're going to get out of that is a bunch of sand in your computer and confusion about what you just signed up for, because it is not going to look like what you thought.
I agree. We tried a like a long weekend at the beach one time and we just kind of was like, yeah, we're just gonna pick up in the car and we're gonna go and we're gonna be at a campsite and then we'll go to the beach. And I was like trying to find a coffee shop and then
Yeah,
like the chair is way higher than the table and I'm like hunched like this
yeah,
and then trying to take a phone call on the beach where people are coming up and trying to bother you and like it's like, "Can't you all see I'm trying to work?" Like,
yeah, yeah.
there's
It
so many variables.
it's so many variables. It can be very, very unglamorous behind the scenes. It's not that it isn't worth it, but you have to know what is the grit that you're willing to go through to get the rest of the glam. And there have been, I mean, I've got story after story, as you might imagine, but I have had to move furniture in hotel rooms and then snap my suitcase up on top of some coffee table and then pile a laundry basket on top of that so I could put my laptop on top of that so I could get an even shot, because I was on a Zoom call. There are time zone differences.
Yes.
Australia was really, really, really tough because of the time zone difference. Every Wednesday, I had to work from 2 a.m. to about noon local time, because I just had some retainer gigs at the time that were important to me, and I didn't want to let those go, and I couldn't rearrange them. But then I slept from noon until evening on Wednesday, and then I took off every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's time zones, it's equipment, it's gear, it's culture, it's lifestyle, it's health and wellness on the road. It can get very, very lonely. So
Mhm.
it's not something to be just, oh, I think I'll go do this because it looks really wonderful and dishy and romantic and sign me up. It's no, there's a lot to think about. And especially as a business owner, that's why we talk about travel as much as you want without missing a business beat, because if those two aren't integrated, you know what's going to happen. You spend all of your time sightseeing and then your business suffers, or you're so disciplined that you work your business and then you may as well be at home because you're not experiencing all the things that you could be.
Right? And I love that. I love starting with that question of like, what do you want it to look like? Because you can shift and design your business to work around the life you want to create. But it does take strategy, and it is going to take an expert who knows a lot of how that works. So for that person who's going, you know what? All of that sounded fine to me. Like I can work around that. I am flexible. I want that. How can they get started with like dipping their toes into your world or even diving in?
I love that question. I'm going to answer it in two ways. The first thing is, how can you get started? Get started with where you are and work with what you have to work with. So this would look like taking a random Wednesday off, turning off all your electronics and going on a little mini road trip that's maybe someplace an hour and a half away.
Mhm.
Spend more than a weekend, spend 3 or 4 days taking, again, a little mini road trip, or you could just go sit out in your backyard. Again, pick a Monday. So part of it is really just training your brain to do the pattern interrupt. If I'm at work, I'm at my desk and at my computer. Okay, but you can also not be at your desk. You can also not be on your computer and technically still working. The other pattern interrupt, that this is how you get started right away, is go do things now that you've been saying to yourself, oh, I'll do that on my day off. I'll go do that on a weekend. Do it on a Tuesday. Do it at 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. on a Thursday. It doesn't matter. But you can get started right now with where you are, with what you have. Again, the stress comes, and where people start going, I'll get to it someday, is when they go, Morocco for 6 months. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. But they can't even have Friday off to go to the spa for the day or something. So don't create artificial stress for yourself. Work with where you are and what you've got, and start taking mini adventures in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, and shutting everything off, and just train your brain to realize I am productive and I am fulfilled, and it doesn't require checking the email and getting on social and being in front of my computer. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you want to have conversations with us or get into our community, which of course I'm completely biased, I think is the most fabulous community with the most amazing people on the planet. But if you want to get into that, we have a Facebook group. You
Okay.
can also personally email me. It's Jane@wanderthe7, and that's a number.com. And we do have a free resource. So we'll provide you with the link if you want to check into that. Just, it's an email exchange. We'll send you the resource, which is Mastering the Art of Income and Adventure. We'll send that to you. That will put you into our world. And then of course you're going to be getting all the tips and the info and the entertainment and everything you could imagine.
Fantastic. I know I'm gonna go sign up. My 2-year-old is now getting a little older, almost 3, so I'm like, "Now's the time. We gotta start traveling. We gotta start having more fun." I'm gonna train her. I wanna give her the experience that your parents gave you. Like, that was so inspiring to hear, and as a parent, as well as like, "Yes, I need more adventure." Like, it can be heavy being a business owner, and this is
Yeah.
a great way to lighten it up.
Yeah. Yeah. My business partner and I, we use Mondays for strategic planning, so we don't take calls, and Friday we just take off. We schedule Friday and Mondays off, if you will, because we know it's easier to long haul international travel that way. But even when we're home, and we're home for stretches at a time, we don't work those days. Friday for sure, no. Monday, yes, if we want to, but again, that's that kind of freedom. But the sole reason we do that, it's just to keep our brains aware that we don't have to show up for work Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or whatever the hours are, because that's just how we've all been trained, because that's how it used to be. But it's just not like that anymore. Again, you need to make some decisions So you don't want to not work Monday and Friday so you can work every single Saturday and Sunday and 8 p.m. and, crazy hours, that kind of thing. But get clear on the lifestyle that you really want to have. Get clear on what you truly have always felt your destiny is. And I don't mean highfalutin fame and fortune. I mean, when you were a kid, you probably experienced this, Izzy. This goes back. I was just thinking when you were talking about the gift that my parents gave me, it really was a gift, because I'll tell you, when I was 7 years old, my mother gave me my first journal, and I wrote in the journal while we were on a trip. We also had allowance, which is how I got into like shopping for souvenirs fairly early in my life. But that is the point. That is what happened. If you would have asked the kid, me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, well, I want to write. And I always wanted to sell stuff. My dad was a business owner and he loved sales. And I want to travel, and I want people to feel good about maybe joining me doing those things. Well, guess what I do now? It's just the grown-up version of writing, selling, traveling, and serving other people and helping them to choose the life that they want to live. So start again with where you are. I think the stress comes from, it's not enough. The trip isn't big enough. The money isn't enough. The time off isn't enough. Go back to when you were a kid. What did you absolutely love doing? The grown-up version of is, if you didn't need the money, what would you still do for free? And
Yes.
sitting on a
Yes.
beach and just kind of zoning out doesn't count. You actually have to be contributing to society.
Yeah.
But what would that contribution be? And then go from there.
And I would say similar, like writing was such a passion. I just went through like notebook after notebook, writing about everything and daydreaming. And then I remember at one point I saw this film and I still haven't figured out what it was, but I know it was Bruce Willis, I'm pretty sure. And he was an image consultant, which is PR. And I was like, ooh, yeah, he gets to tell people how they're being perceived and how to shift and how to, and like I was like, and I kind of do that now, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's every single one of us has been given gifts and talents and skill. And then it's up to us over the course of our life to make sure that we're continuing to enhance those and to improve those. But in your heart of hearts, I really believe that we all know, I know, everybody watching, you know what it is that you want to do. And then that becomes this is because I'm supposed to. And the supposed to isn't a heavy word or a burden. It's because why else are you here? Go do the things that you're supposed to do. Live the life that you always envisioned yourself living.
That's such wise words. Thank you, Jane, so much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us.
Well, I had a
I
blast.
love it.
I hope everybody found some of that information useful.
I know, like, I would encourage everyone just, like, after listening to this, just sit down and start journaling, because
Yeah.
if you think about doing it later, it's probably not gonna happen to, like, even re-listen and just sit down and make the time to do this, because you don't want another 5, 10 years clicking by and suddenly going, "Man, I really wish I would have done that 10 years ago and just did the
Yeah.
journaling, started there."
You
It's
know
solid.
what? I'm gonna make a special offer right here, right now. The Art of Mastering Income and Adventure, that is a free resource. Everybody's welcome to it. If you're really serious, I'm going to provide another free resource that we normally sell for $17. But here's the scoop on that. You're going to have to email me personally, because if it goes through the system, it's going to send you, hi, insert your credit card. But I'm going
Okay.
to make that available to everybody for free. So email me, Jane at wanderthe7.com, and wander the is spelled out in the number 7.com. And what I want you to put in there is, just in the subject line, put ultimate business freedom. And we will send you this 55-page guide. It is absolutely gorgeous. Thanks to my team. I had nothing to do with the visuals of it. But it is very comprehensive, and it will help you get clear about your work, about your career, about your desires, including the travel and what kind of travel and what is it that your soul is really seeking and searching. So it's fantastic. I've been through it several times myself, but it is yours for free. Just email me directly, ultimate business freedom, put that in the subject line. I'll know what that is and I'll get it out to you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
I'm getting ready to email you, so I hope everyone else does as well. And thank you for joining us. I don't know about you, but, like, I'd love to have you back for another time and let's like deep dive what it would be like to like work from Europe or something like
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh, I love it. I'd absolutely love it. Yeah. I love really supporting people and making their vision a reality. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time on the Business Growth Lab. I'm Izzy Nalley, and today we had Jane Garee. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, everybody.